She vanished one night, and when she came home wearing yesterday's clothes, I didn't confront her. I smiled, because I already knew, and I had a plan. I used to believe that relationships could be fixed, that when something cracks, you patch it up, talk it out, and keep moving forward. I believed that love meant pushing through the hard stuff, not walking away at the first sign of trouble. That belief died quietly on a Wednesday morning. My name's Josh, and I live in Portland, Oregon. I've been married to Emily for 9 years. We weren't the flashy couple. No Instagram reels or TikToks. Just two people who knew each other's favorite takeout spots and how to make each other laugh on a bad day. Or so I thought. It started with the little things. She stopped watching our favorite shows at night, claiming she was too tired or had things to do. She began going to bed after me, always glued to her phone. When I woke up early for work, I'd find her still awake, typing away or scrolling through something, always quick to minimize the screen when I walked by. I didn't want to jump to conclusions. I figured maybe it was stress. Work had been demanding and life gets busy. But then came the gym. Emily had never cared about working out. Then suddenly, she was obsessed. 3 nights a week, new leggings, new water bottles, a membership to some trendy women's-only fitness class she claimed I wouldn't enjoy. I didn't question it at first. People grow, they change, they pick up new habits. But the change was too fast, too sharp, and it came with something else, distance. She stopped touching me. No more casual foot nudges under the blanket. No more half-asleep murmurs to pull me closer. I started feeling like a roommate instead of a husband. Then there was the phone. We'd never been the what's mine is yours couple when it came to privacy, but it had never been a big deal either. If mine was charging, I'd grab hers to check the time or the weather. She used to laugh it off. Now she treated it like a classified device. Wouldn't leave it out, took it to the bathroom, and snatched it away when I reached for it. Once even snapping, "There's a clock right there," when I said I just wanted to check the time. I wish I could say that was the moment I knew. It wasn't. I still clung to denial. Maybe she was just going through something. Maybe it was hormonal, seasonal, emotional, anything but what I feared. But fear doesn't care about your excuses. And that fear turned into certainty one morning when I woke up and she wasn't there. I always wake up at 5 a.m. for work. She's usually curled up beside me, even if she stirs when I get out of bed. That morning, her side was cold. Her car was gone. No note, no text. At 7:12 a.m., she walked in wearing the same outfit from the night before. Makeup smudged, hair tangled. She froze when she saw me sitting at the kitchen table, coffee in hand. "Oh, you're up early," she said, trying to sound casual. I didn't answer that, just looked her straight in the eyes and asked, "Where were you?" She blinked, then glanced down at her phone like she was searching for the right lie. "I crashed at Julia's. Girls' night. I told you, remember?" I hadn't remembered because she hadn't told me, but I nodded. "Right, Julia's." She relaxed. Thought she got away with it. Thought I'd just accept it and go on making coffee and pretending I didn't smell unfamiliar cologne on her. That's when something in me shifted. See, I wasn't about to have a screaming match or chase her around the city like some lovesick detective. If she was lying, and I knew she was, I was going to let her bury herself in it. But this time I'd have the shovel. I decided that morning I wouldn't confront her again without proof. No yelling, no accusations, just cold, quiet facts. That's when everything started to change. I started keeping a record. When she left, when she got home, what excuse she gave. I kept it simple: dates, times, claims. I said nothing. I just watched. She thought she was being clever. She thought I was just drifting, maybe even checking out emotionally. But I wasn't gone, I was preparing. Emily kept slipping. A gym class that ended at 8, but she didn't come home until midnight. A dinner with coworkers that somehow lasted until 2 in the morning. Each story more fragile than the last. When I brought up looking up her class schedule, just in passing, she snapped, "What, you don't trust me?" That sentence sealed it. Not because she got defensive, but because of what followed. The guilt trip. The emotional flip to make me feel like the bad guy for even asking. No, I didn't trust her. But now I didn't need to trust or distrust. I needed confirmation. and I was going to get it. Because the next time she looked me in the eye and lied, I wanted her to see it in my face, that I already knew. And there would be no way out. Only consequences. Once I committed to finding the truth, everything became painfully obvious. Emily wasn't even trying to hide it anymore. Maybe she thought I was too passive to act. Maybe she believed I was so emotionally invested I'd never leave, no matter what she did. But I wasn't invested anymore. I was documenting her downfall. Step 1: patterns. She had already shown me her habits: late nights, vague explanations, defensive reactions when questioned. I started keeping detailed notes. No confrontation, no accusations, just a record. Thursday. Left at 6:15 p.m. for spin class. Came home at 11:47 p.m. Friday. Work drinks. Gone from 7 p.m. to 1:36 a.m. Sunday. Julia's birthday dinner. Except I ran into Julia that afternoon, and she didn't mention anything about a birthday. Her lies weren't clever. They were just frequent. What made them effective wasn't her skill. It was my former willingness to believe. Once that was gone, she had no armor left. Step 2: proof. I didn't want to guess. I needed something indisputable. So I bought a cheap voice recorder and tucked it under the passenger seat of her car. Out of sight, but close enough to pick up any conversation. If she was meeting someone, I'd know. 3 days later, I retrieved the recorder while she was asleep. I expected music, maybe silence. What I heard made my hands go cold. A man's voice, confident, relaxed, too familiar with her. They joked, talked about me, laughed about how she couldn't leave yet because divorce is messy, and he's still useful. She said I was boring. She said she felt guilty, but not enough to stop. She said she didn't respect me anymore. I didn't stop the recording. I let it play in full. Then I replayed it. Not because I was shocked, but because I wanted to burn the feeling into memory. This wasn't salvageable. She was done. And now so was I. But I wasn't going to scream or demand an apology. I wasn't even angry. I was strategic. And I had a new plan. Remove her from my life without giving her a single opportunity to twist the narrative. The next morning, I waited until breakfast. She poured her coffee like nothing had changed, humming to herself. I took a sip of mine, then said casually, "I spoke to a lawyer yesterday." Her hand froze mid-pour. "What?" "I figured it's time to start the divorce process. The papers should be ready by Friday." She blinked, like she didn't understand the words. "Divorce?" I nodded and took another sip. "Yep." She stared at me for a moment, waiting for a smile, a smirk, some indication that I was joking. But I wasn't. Her expression cracked. "You're serious?" she asked. "Completely." She looked shaken. She expected a fight, accusations, anger, tears. But I gave her none of that. I watched her slowly realize this wasn't a bluff. "You're supposed to fight for me," she said quietly. That sentence told me everything I needed to know. She didn't regret what she did. She regretted losing control. This wasn't about love. This was about power. I didn't respond. I pushed my chair back and walked away. That day, she tried to reverse course. For the first time in years, she made breakfast. Bacon, eggs, toast. I didn't sit down. Just grabbed a protein bar and left. That night, she tried something else: seduction. Lingerie, soft touches, empty whispers. I stepped away. "You don't have to do this," she said, trying to sound sincere. "Whatever you think you're saving is already gone," I replied. She flinched. "You're really going through with this?" "Yeah, I am." She slammed the bedroom door behind her that night. By Wednesday, she had switched tactics again. Blame. "You're throwing away our marriage over a misunderstanding," she snapped at me in the kitchen. I turned to her. "Misunderstanding?" She tried to backtrack. "It wasn't like that." I walked closer, lowered my voice. "Should I play the audio for you? The part where you called me boring and said I was still useful?" Her face went pale. She knew I wasn't bluffing. "You spied on me?" "No." I stopped lying to myself. She had nothing to say. The mask had fallen. And now, for the first time, She saw what I had become. Not heartbroken, not vengeful. Unreachable. That night, she cried on the couch, knees pulled to her chest, silent. When she finally spoke, her voice cracked. I don't want to lose you. I stood in the doorway and didn't move. You should have thought about that before you cheated. She wiped her eyes. It wasn't supposed to be like this. I didn't reply, because it was exactly like this, because she made it that way. The next day, she got desperate. Called her mom, my parents, our mutual friends. She spun the story. I was cold. I was overreacting. I was abandoning her without a chance to fix things. I let her try. The next morning, her best friend Melanie called me. She's really upset, she said. She told me what happened. Are you sure this isn't just? I interrupted her. Did she also tell you she's been cheating on me for months? Silence. Yeah, I said. Didn't think so. By Friday, the papers were ready. She hadn't signed yet, but I knew she would, because the only thing left to lose was the illusion that she had any control over how this ended. Friday morning, we sat across from each other at the kitchen table. Between us were the divorce papers, clean, final, undeniable. She hadn't signed them yet. She was pale, quiet, her hands folded in front of her like she was waiting for a last-minute miracle. This is really happening, she whispered. I nodded. It is. She looked down at the documents but didn't reach for the pen. I don't want this. You should have thought about that before you cheated, I said without emotion. Her lip trembled. I was confused. I made a mistake. I laughed, short and humorless. No, a mistake is forgetting to pick up milk. You didn't forget. You chose. Over and over. Her eyes welled up, but I didn't care. I had nothing left to give her. No sympathy, no comfort, not even anger. Then came the pleading. I'll end it with him. I'll show you. I'll prove it to you. Just please don't do this. She reached for my hand, but I pulled it away. It's already done. She gasped like she didn't believe me. Like all of this was some bluff and I was just waiting for her to say the right thing. She tried turning it back on me. Why didn't you fight for me? She snapped, as if my lack of resistance was the problem. I raised an eyebrow. Fight for what? A woman who betrayed me? Her expression twisted into frustration. People work through things like this all the time. You're just looking for an excuse to leave me. I scoffed. So now this is my fault? She crossed her arms. You checked out long before I did. I stood. I didn't cheat. Maybe if you'd been a better husband. She started, then caught herself. But it was too late. There it is, I said, nodding slowly. There's the real you. She opened her mouth, then closed it. The panic in her eyes was no longer subtle. She was unraveling. I pushed the papers toward her. Sign them. She burst into tears, loud and dramatic, like a performance for someone who was no longer in the audience. She cried, begged, screamed, claimed this wasn't fair, accused me of giving up on us, said I owed it to our families to work it out. None of it touched me. By morning, her tactics shifted again. She called my mother, hoping for an ally. My son deserves better, my mom told her coldly. Let him go. She called my best friend, trying the guilt angle. She says you're being harsh, he texted me. But I know better. You're doing the right thing. Then she made the worst mistake she could have made. She tried contacting the guy she cheated with. I saw her call history later. 5 missed calls to the same number in 1 hour. No answer. When I walked into the kitchen that afternoon, she was holding her phone so tightly I thought it might snap. Something wrong? I asked, not even trying to hide the smirk. She looked up slowly. He's ignoring me. I nodded. Of course he is. Her face darkened. What's that supposed to mean? It means you were fun when you were forbidden. Now you're just a problem. She didn't respond, just stared at the floor, phone still clutched in her hand. That night, the fight was gone from her. She didn't cry. She didn't argue. She just sat at the table in silence, finally accepting what I had known for weeks. There was no turning back. She picked up the pen. Her hand shook, but she signed. When she slid the papers back to me, She whispered, "I don't know what I'm supposed to do now." I met her gaze. "Not my problem." I stood up, took the papers, and walked away. For the first time in over a year, I felt like I could breathe. But the process wasn't over. She still lived in the house. And I wasn't about to keep sharing space with a woman who had stabbed me in the back and expected me to play nice afterward. The next morning, I stood in the doorway while she sat on the couch, still hoping something would change. "You need to pack your things?" I said calmly. She looked up, confused. "Wait, you're kicking me out? This house is mine. The deed, the mortgage, everything's in my name. You didn't contribute $1. Her jaw dropped. "You wouldn't." "I already did." Her panic returned, this time real and raw. "Where am I supposed to go?" "Not my problem." "What about my stuff?" "I'll have it packed." "You're being heartless." "No," I said. "I'm being done." That shut her up. She thought the worst part was signing the papers. She was wrong. The worst part was realizing no one was on her side. Her mom stopped taking her calls. Her best friend blocked her. Our mutual friends, once shared, were now mine. Because when the truth came out, people stopped making excuses for her. Even her affair partner ghosted her completely. She gambled and lost. And now she was watching everything fall apart in slow motion. But I was already gone. After she signed the divorce papers, Emily sat in the living room for hours, staring at nothing. I didn't say a word. She still thought there might be a reset button, that I might walk in, change my mind, or offer to start over. She didn't understand that I had already moved on the moment I confirmed the truth. By the next morning, I had called a moving company. I told them to box up everything she owned and have it ready by the end of the week. When I told her, she looked at me like I'd slapped her. "You're seriously doing this?" she asked. "You thought I wouldn't?" "I have nowhere to go," she said. "You had somewhere to go every night for the past few months. Try there." Her face hardened. "He won't even answer my calls." I shrugged. "Sounds like a you problem." She tried guilt again. "So, after almost 10 years, this is how you end things?" "No. You ended it the moment you stepped out. This is just me cleaning up the mess." She didn't respond, just sat there as movers started taping boxes in the other room. That weekend, she left the house for good. No goodbye, no final plea, just silence and a trunk full of her belongings. I watched her drive away without a word. I didn't feel victorious. I felt clean. There's a difference. But the fallout wasn't finished. Emily still had one weapon left, the story she could tell, and she started using it fast. I got texts from mutual friends. "She says you blindsided her. She says she made a mistake and you wouldn't give her a second chance. She says you're being cold." I responded the same way each time. Ask her if she mentioned the affair. Most of them didn't reply after that. A few did, and those messages were different. "I'm sorry, man. I didn't know. You deserve better. She lied to all of us." The truth always catches up. And when it did, she found herself completely alone. Even the guy she cheated with wanted nothing to do with her. I found out later that he ghosted her completely after the divorce. No return calls, no texts. He was never in it for the long haul. She was a thrill to him. Someone else's wife, off limits, exciting. Once the thrill vanished, so did he. Weeks passed. Then the messages started. First, casual. "I saw something today that reminded me of you. I miss our talks." I ignored them. Then, sentimental. "We were together for so long. Doesn't that mean anything to you? Don't you feel anything? Not even sadness?" Left on read. Finally, bitter. "You were never man enough to keep me anyway. That's why I had to find someone else." That one got her blocked. She didn't get it. She thought I'd chase her again once the dust settled. She believed that once the anger faded, I'd come back. Like she was worth it. Like she hadn't burned every bridge between us. But I didn't come back. I didn't even look back. A few months later, I ran into an old friend of ours. He looked uncomfortable, like he didn't want to say anything. "How's she doing?" I asked, knowing exactly what I was inviting. He sighed. "Honestly, She's a mess. Lost her apartment. Moved back in with her mom. Can't hold down a job. She's spiraling. I nodded. Not surprised. He looked at me for a moment. You don't feel bad? No, I said. Why would I? She made choices. I lived with the pain. She lives with the consequences. I didn't have to destroy her. She did that all on her own. All I did was stop saving her. And I meant it. She used to think I was too soft to ever let her go. That I'd always bend. Always forgive. Always be waiting. But when I finally said enough, she had no backup plan. No next move. Everyone she counted on walked away. Every version of her story fell apart. And now, she was left alone with the truth. And that's the one thing she couldn't manipulate. Her downfall wasn't dramatic. It wasn't explosive. It was quiet, slow, and personal. She had built her world on a lie, and when it collapsed, there was nothing left to hold her up. Meanwhile, I was rebuilding, and she was learning what it meant to have nothing because that's exactly what she gave. 1 year later, I was sitting on the balcony of my new apartment, sipping coffee and watching the city wake up. For the first time in a long time, I felt like my life was mine again. No drama, no lies, no one walking through the door with excuses and the smell of someone else on them. I had rebuilt everything. The process wasn't glamorous. There were nights I questioned if I was too cold, if I should have tried harder to fix things. But then I'd replay just 1 minute of that recording. The way she talked about me, the smug tone in her voice, and any doubts disappeared. I didn't just walk away from a bad marriage. I escaped a person who never valued me. After the divorce, I focused on the basics. I worked out again. I reconnected with friends I hadn't seen in years. I picked up hobbies I'd abandoned. Things she used to roll her eyes at because they didn't benefit the relationship. But most of all, I learned how to be alone without feeling lonely. I never tried to date immediately. I wasn't looking to fill a void. I wanted to get comfortable with silence, to enjoy my own company again. And slowly I did. But life has a way of moving forward whether you're ready or not. One day, someone new came into it. We met through a mutual friend. Nothing forced, no pressure. Just easy conversation. She didn't ask about my past right away, and I didn't offer it. We talked about music, bad takeout, and road trips. Things that felt light again. When she eventually did ask what happened, I told her the truth without bitterness. And when I was done, she just nodded and said, "I'm glad you walked away." That's when I realized how far I'd come. I didn't feel the need to justify what I'd been through anymore. I didn't feel ashamed of how it ended. I felt proud that I hadn't let it break me. Emily, on the other hand, never bounced back. People who choose betrayal don't usually consider what comes next. They're too wrapped up in the excitement of the moment, too convinced of their ability to juggle the lies. But when the game ends and reality hits, they find themselves standing in the wreckage alone. She lost everything, not because I punished her, but because she built her life on short-term thrills and long-term disregard. The last I heard, she was still at her mother's house, still blaming everyone but herself. She tried to reconnect with a few old friends, but the damage was done. Nobody wanted to be part of her cleanup crew. She had burned too many bridges, told too many lies, made too many people uncomfortable with her version of the truth. She reached out once more. A text from a new number. "I miss what we had. I miss who we were." I didn't respond, because what we had didn't exist. What we were was a lie, at least on her end. And I wasn't interested in pretending otherwise just to make her feel better. Sometimes, people mistake forgiveness for reconciliation. They think saying "I'm sorry" should earn them a second chance. But some betrayals don't deserve that. Some actions come with permanent consequences. I didn't seek revenge. I didn't smear her name or sabotage her life. I let the truth do the work for me. And it did. That was the real victory, not her downfall but my peace. Because healing isn't about hurting the person who wronged you. It's about making sure they no longer have a place in your future. So, if you're listening to this and wondering what to do when someone you love betrays you, here's my advice. You don't have to scream. You don't have to beg. You don't even have to explain. Just walk away and let the silence do what words never could. She expected drama. She expected a man broken and desperate. What she got was a man who watched her fall apart without lifting a finger. And in the end, that's what changed everything. Not the betrayal, not the lies, but the fact that when it was time to let go, I didn't hesitate.